The snow had just begun to settle on the northern island of Hokkaido. It was December 1915, in the small remote village of Sankebetsu, surrounded by dense forests and frozen silence. Life was simple and predictable. The villagers, mostly farmers, relied on the land and each other. But that winter, something ancient and terrible would rise from the woods, something with hunger in its belly and murder in its heart. It began with strange signs. At first, villagers noticed claw marks on the wooden walls of their barns. Then, bags of corn stored for winter went missing. Footprints, massive, heavy, and unmistakably those of a large bear, were found near the edge of the forest. The elders warned that this was no ordinary bear. It was a giant brown bear, likely pushed out of its natural range by hunger. But what no one could predict was how cunning and bloodthirsty the beast would prove to be. On December 9th, the bear made its first direct move. It broke into a farmhouse and destroyed sacks of grain. The villagers gathered, shouted, fired warning shots into the air, and the beast fled. But it left behind a message written in fear. "I know where you live. I will return." The next attack came swiftly, on December 10th. In a quiet house near the edge of the village, the Ota family lived peacefully. A grandmother, a daughter-in-law, and 3 children, the youngest just 6 months old. The men had gone out into the woods to hunt or work, leaving the women and children behind. The bear came shortly after dawn. It broke the door down like it was paper. What happened inside that house was beyond horrific. When the men returned, they found silence. And then blood. The bear had killed the baby first, likely to silence the crying. Then it mauled the women, tearing them apart with terrifying brutality. The scene was unspeakable. The bear didn't just kill. It fed. It had tasted human flesh. And that changed everything. It wasn't just a bear anymore. It was now a man-eater. News spread like wildfire, and terror took root. This wasn't just a wild animal attacking livestock. This was a predator that stalked and killed people. The villagers organized armed patrols. Women and children were sent to safer nearby settlements. But even as they built barricades and prayed for safety, the villagers knew something deep down. The bear would return. And it would not stop until it had finished what it started. The next night, the bear did come back. December 11th. The Miyake family home stood quietly in the snow. Inside were several people, a pregnant woman, her children, and an elderly man. The bear struck like a ghost. It smashed its way inside without warning. One man, who happened to be outside at the time, heard the screams and rushed back. What he saw would haunt him forever. He arrived just in time to see the bear dragging one of the children into the forest, the child's blood painting a trail in the snow. The others inside were either dead or dying. The lone survivor was frozen with fear, unable to even cry. The villagers were now desperate. They contacted expert bear hunters and former soldiers. Among them was a man named Yamamoto Heikichi, a seasoned hunter with deep knowledge of the terrain and the behavior of brown bears. When Yamamoto arrived and examined the attack sites, he said something chilling. "This bear, it's not just hungry. It's learned the taste. And worse, it has learned not to fear men." Yamamoto organized a team of skilled marksmen and trackers. They ventured deep into the snowy forests, following the massive paw prints, the blood trails, and broken branches. But the bear was a master of its domain. It vanished into the dense wilderness like smoke. Days passed. People started to believe it had left, but Yamamoto knew better. On December 14th, the bear returned one final time, and this time, it came for the people who had been chasing it. It was night. Torches lit the village as armed men stood guard. The villagers, terrified, had taken shelter in a large meeting hall. Suddenly, the bear appeared at the edge of the trees. It was enormous, dark as the night, and completely unafraid. Shots were fired, and the bear retreated, but only briefly. It circled back, using the shadows, trying to find an opening. And then it did something unexpected. It attacked from behind. It stormed a different house, one where a small group had been resting, believing it to be safe. The bear's attack was lightning fast. Another person was killed. One of the villagers tried to fight it with a farming tool and was ripped apart. Even in death, the bear had the upper hand. But that same night would be the beginning of its end. The hunters set traps. They used human remains to bait the creature, knowing it had developed a taste for flesh. It was brutal, but it was the only way. For days, the bear avoided the traps. Clever, cautious. Then finally, on December 14th, after nearly a week of attacks, the beast returned to one of the homes, sniffing the scent of bait. This time, Yamamoto was waiting. As the bear approached the trap, Yamamoto raised his rifle. He had only one chance. The shot rang out, echoing through the frozen trees. The bullet struck the bear in the chest. The monster roared in pain and tried to flee. Yamamoto fired again and again. The great beast staggered, bleeding, and then fell. It was over. When they examined the bear's body, they were horrified by what they found in its stomach. Pieces of clothing, human bones, flesh. It had killed and eaten at least 7 people and injured several others. The damage it caused, physical, emotional, psychological, would last generations. The villagers burned the house where the first attack occurred, believing it cursed. Many moved away, never returning. The story of the Sankebetsu brown bear massacre became legend in Japan, not just because of its brutality, but because it revealed something deeper and darker. It showed how thin the line is between civilization and wilderness. How even the most remote, quiet places on Earth are not immune to the raw forces of nature. And how when man meets beast, not all battles end with the man standing. To this day, the story of the Sankebetsu bear is told in hushed tones in Hokkaido. A warning, a remembrance, a reminder that sometimes the forest watches us too.